Despite being released only May of last year, the Bayangtoys X16 Typhoon is a brushless toy hobby hybrid quadcopter with a long and confusing history. The latest chapter which is a GPS version, which started cropping up online some time ago. It seems to just now be hitting the major retailers, but I took a bit of a gamble with an early seller on AliExpress, and while I can't guarantee I received the same packaging or accessories as will be sent out by, say, Banggood, it's in all other respects the real deal. So welcome to this review and flight test of the latest GPS version of the X16 quadcopter from Bayangtoys. Except for the added GPS functionality, there are, as far as I can tell, very few differences between the prior X16s and this new revision. This can be seen as a double-edged sword. On one hand, it means that there is already a good availability of compatible spare parts. On the other, it also means that some aspects of the quadcopter's design that were criticized have likely gone unaddressed. Part DJI Phantom clone, part weird bulky spaceship. The design of the Bayangtoys X16 may not be aesthetically exciting, but it is for the most part practical. Broad landing legs, which offers ample clearance for a camera or small gimbal setup, a generous battery compartment, and a surprisingly solid plastic shell, which should protect the quadcopter somewhat in the event of a crash landing. As already mentioned, the X16 uses brushless motors, which gives it more punch and higher payload capacity than a brushed setup. On mine, they're black as opposed to the red or silver as seen on some prior variants of the model. The included propellers measure 8 inches, but with its 350mm motor-to-motor distance, the frame is actually big enough to support props up to around 9 inches. Underneath the quadcopter you'll find a shoe for mounting various cameras, an on-off switch and a 2.5mm jack, which, with a compatible camera plugged into it, can be used to start and stop video recording or trigger photo capture directly from the transmitter. The jack doesn't supply power though, which limits the supported cameras. The included transmitter is a no-frills affair. Not bad, but nothing to get particularly worked up over either. It's your typical hobby-grade style toy-grade transmitter with a basic display and some extra buttons for engaging or disengaging things like GPS-assisted loiter mode or return to home, as well as switching rates and triggering photo and video capture. The initial version of the X16 was supported by the excellent Deviation TX alternative firmware for the Vaquera Devo series of transmitters, but apparently the protocol was changed between the original and the upgraded version with added altitude hold. Perhaps not surprising, as the GPS version seems to be building on prior revisions to the model, I haven't been able to buy my Devo 7e to it. Also perhaps not surprising, the X16 is a heavy craft, requiring FAA registration if you're based in the US. The total weight comes in at around 730 grams, of which the battery makes out almost a fourth. The battery for the X16 is in my frame of reference a real whopper. 2200 mAh total capacity divided over 3 LiPo cells in series, totaling a nominal voltage of 11.1 volts. It uses a 3.5mm HXT banana plug and a normal 3S balance lead. These specs are the same as for the battery of the original, meaning flights are bound to be a little bit shorter as it now has to power the added GPS module as well. In my experience, not quite 10 minutes versus the original's 11 to 12. Unless you happen to own a hobby alternative, you charge the battery using this wall charger, which should look familiar to owners of other big toy hobby hybrids. It's part of the included accessories along with an instruction manual, which, should be noted on my early version, is not updated to include the GPS features, a set of extra propellers, and some tools for mounting the props and landing gear. I also received this damping action camera mount, but wouldn't count on this being included in the final retail package. I suspect what you're probably most curious about with regards to this new revision of the X16 is the GPS functionality. This boils down to two features: a so-called loiter or position hold mode in which the quadcopter, as the name suggests, holds its current position and altitude, and a return to launch feature where it returns to and lands where it initially took off from. What functionality is offered, in my experience, works very well. In loiter mode, enabled by default, the X16 holds its position reliably, even in moderately windy conditions, and return to launch softly lands the quadcopter within a meter or so from where it took off. This all assuming you allow the quadcopter to determine its position first, a process which takes 30 to 60 seconds. Even with the assistance from GPS, you still have to be ready on the sticks though, especially with a powerful brushless quadcopter like this. Should something start to go south or you just want to fly manually, you can disengage the GPS functionality completely at any time via the transmitter. With two rates of varying pitch, roll and yaw, the X16 is still serviceable for normal flight, though the altitude hold and slow yaw rate makes it unsuitable as a sport flyer. I haven't tested the range, listed as an impressive 260 to 350 meters extensively, but flown it about as far away as I felt comfortable with without problems. For the record, I also haven't tested the quadcopter's behavior in the event of signal loss, though previous models shut down after a few seconds. It would only be natural to think of the new X16 with its GPS features and payload capacity of brushless motors as a good candidate for an inexpensive aerial photography platform. Unfortunately, this is where my, I think, only major complaint of the quadcopter comes into play. Vibrations. I believe mainly caused by unbalanced propellers, which in turn I believe have been an issue with the X16 since the beginning. An unbalanced propeller is one whose weight is not evenly distributed between its blades, either because the hub is slightly off-center or because of imperfections in the manufacturing process. To alleviate this, I first tried replacing the stock propellers with a set of 9450 Phantom 3 props, which I had seen recommended in reference to the original. They may have fixed the vibrations, but also messed with the altitude hold somehow, putting the quadcopter into a continuous pattern of rapid ascent and descent. Instead I went back to my spare set of stock propellers, which held somewhat. I also reinforced the damping mount with some plastic foam, since I suspected it was too loose, actually making things worse. Improved, but as you can see still far from perfect. Here it is stabilized in post-processing. Apart from this though, the only other complaint I can think of with regards to flight is that I can't seem to figure out the LVC warning, though this could just be the battery acting up in the sub-zero centigrade temperatures I've been testing it in, which is not uncommon. In conclusion, I'm pretty happy with the new Bayangtoys X16, my first GPS-equipped multirotor I should add. I had a lot of fun playing around with the GPS-enabled features, which in my experience hold up well. I just wish there were more of them, like waypoint flying or some kind of follow mode. The vibrations are a huge bummer, especially as the quadcopter would otherwise make for a great aerial photography platform. Though I'm pretty sure this can be fixed if you just manage to find the right replacement props or manually balance the stock ones. At only $150, the new X16 is currently the cheapest brushless GPS-enabled multirotor out there. For that price it's absolutely no bust, but for just another $50 you get into some serious competition, not least from Hubsan, with models promising some pretty neat autonomous functions. Worth it? I'll let you decide. Hello again and thank you for watching this review. As usual, you're more than welcome to share your experiences of this quadcopter in the comment section below. And if you have any ideas about the cause of or fix for the camera vibrations I showed you in the review, please leave them there as well. I would really like to get a bottom of that. Alright, hope to see you soon in another review. Bye!